Virginia Correctional Enterprises presents its bias apparel process at Haynesville Correctional Center, which cuts on the bias of the fabric at a 45-degree angle. Measure 10 yards down the table to obtain the bias. At the 10-yard mark, set up the clamps to stretch the fabric. Do this on both sides of the table. Flatten out the fabric to ensure that it lays flat. Wrinkles in the material will cause a problem further down the process. The outside edges must remain level. When complete, remove the clamps. The bias needs to be cut at 60-inch intervals down the table on both sides, for a total of 5 times on each side. This ensures that no fabric is wasted. Use the 10-yard marks previously marked on the table and make a square cut. Make diagonal cuts across the table, 5 times down the table. Lines have to be drawn from the bottom left of the table to the top right. If you reverse the direction, the fabric will bow away from what it is being sewn onto. Moving from the bottom left to the top right ensures that it will bow towards the fabric. Prior to running the knife, make sure you put on protective gloves. Sharpen the blade of the knife and then make the diagonal cuts. The number of ply the knife can cut through depends upon the depth of the fabric. Follow the line as closely as possible using the guide. Take the cut fabric and fold it the way you would fold a U.S. flag in the military. Take the first sheet and set it down in the basket. Take the second sheet and join the opposite salvage edges of both sheets. Make sure to line up the corners. Then flip it on the other side and repeat the process. At the end, fold the sheet and cut off the straight edge. Use the re-rolling machine to check for any quality issues or defects. This process requires two people to keep the fabric straight. The tube must fit tightly or the machine will not function properly. Cut along a straight edge to re-roll properly. The different rollers calibrate the proper tension needed for the final rolling process. Tape the first end on to secure it. Use a roll of tape to cover the fabric on the outside edge and use the machine's pedal to turn the fabric. Use the circular blade on the back of the machine and move the gauge to dictate the width of the bias. The little needles clamp into the roll and hold the roll tight. Cut off the end first. It is critical to ensure that the correct amount of fabric is calculated for each roll cut from the bias so that the perpetual inventory is correct. As an example, a job requiring 10 rolls with each final roll comprised of 10 yards each will require initially laying out 100 yards of fabric. The roll must be held tight to maintain its shape. The folder process folds both sides, top and bottom, so that you do not finish with a raw edge. It folds in both edges and completes a finished edge with a stitch on both sides.